and welcome to Pursuing Health. I'm Dr. Julie Fouché, family physician and former CrossFit Games athlete. Here, I bring you information and inspiration to help bridge the gap between fitness and medicine and support your journey toward your healthiest self. Thank you so much for joining me. Now let's get started with this week's episode. What I wanted to share today was a powerful experience that I had showing me just how important our deep sense of purpose and meaning can be. And so you may have heard me before talk about a particularly stressful time during my life. And this was during my first year of medical school, while I was also training to compete in an international sport called CrossFit. Now, there was a lot going on. Obviously, those two are big endeavors in and of themselves, but also there was a lot of transition during this time period. I had graduated from college, moved to a new city, started medical school, also training and competing for this competition, which fell within that same time frame. And I had lost my grandmother, who I was very close to, and then unexpectedly, my uncle also, who passed away in a plane crash. And so there was a lot happening in a short amount of time, and I certainly did not have the tools and the emotional capacity to be able to process all of this. So it became very difficult, and I developed physical symptoms at that time. And as I started to come out of this period and process some of those emotions, I still was finding myself with very little motivation to continue with my CrossFit training. So I would find myself where I used to really enjoy going to the gym and enjoy pushing myself hard in my training. I was finding myself driving to the gym and just sitting in the car and crying and then deciding to turn around and go home instead of walking in. I just didn't enjoy it in the ways that I had before. And one particular phone call that I had with my mom will always stick with me because I remember telling her how I was having such a hard time. And she just said so matter-of-factly, Julie, you don't have to do any of this. You could stop competing in CrossFit today. You could drop out of medical school today, and we will still love you just the same. And those words really stuck with me, and they hit me on a deep level because I realized in that moment that I had never really stopped to ask myself why I was doing what I was doing. Why was I taking on these two things that in and of themselves were each really difficult endeavors? And why was I trying to do them both at the same time? Now, I had gotten very clear on why I was going to medical school and why I wanted to become a doctor. There was a whole process of discerning that that was the path I wanted to go before even applying to medical school. And then the application process also helped me crystallize that why. Writing a personal statement, spending many hours interviewing and explaining to people why this was the path that I wanted to go. But I realized that I had never actually answered that question for myself about why I wanted to compete in CrossFit. Now, competing in the CrossFit Games was something that I really sort of fell into. I started CrossFit more for my own health and fitness because I really enjoyed working out and it looked like a lot of fun to me. And I decided to sign up for some local competitions just for fun. Next thing I know, I'm doing really well. I'm qualifying for the international competition, the CrossFit Games. And within 1 year, I finished in 5th place in that competition, 5th place out of all the women in the world. So needless to say, I was getting a lot of accolades. I was getting a lot of pats on the back and wow, Julie, great job. And of course, when you do really well at something, you don't even stop to think about it. You're just like, well, I'm going to keep doing this. At least I did. And so I went back to do it another year. Now, that second year, as I just explained, the competition fell during a particularly stressful period in my life. And so coming out of that period, it became really difficult for me to find the same joy and the same motivation that I had before in training. And so that question that my mom asked really helped me to step back and start asking myself this question of why. Why did I want to compete in CrossFit? And why did I want to do both of these things, medical school and competing in CrossFit at the same time? And for me, a few things came up as I started contemplating. For one, I realized that I did have some natural physical gifts, doing so well over the course of just 1 year. And I wanted to see how far I could push myself. I wanted to express my full potential and see what my body was capable of. I also had seen, just in the short span of time, how me pushing my own body to see what I was capable of and having this platform of competing in front of an entire community gave me an opportunity to inspire other people to help reach their full potential. And that was really fulfilling to me when I would talk to someone who said, wow, you inspired me to start CrossFit, or I was really feeling down about myself, but then I saw your story and it helped me to continue. Those things were really fulfilling to me. But the third thing that I thought about that really had a deep impact on me was this idea that maybe CrossFit and medicine were not unrelated endeavors. Maybe they were in some way connected. And maybe that by continuing to compete and do well in CrossFit, I was building a platform for myself to be able to impact the health of other people and also potentially impact the broken healthcare system that we're all a part of on a larger scale than I might be able to as an individual doctor, one-on-one with patients in the office. And that really instilled a deep sense of motivation in me to continue. And the difference, once I made this realization, happened almost instantaneously. I stopped crying all the time. I really regained my motivation to train. I enjoyed my training and my time in the gym. And I ended up finishing with my best finish ever in that season. And so through this experience, it's helped me to really understand the importance of identifying with our why with everything that we do. Because when we have a more superficial why or a more superficial reason or something that's convenient, like, well, I did well last year, so I might as well keep going, that can keep us going when things are pretty easy. But when times get tough, and they will always get tough because that's life, we need that deeper sense of purpose, that deeper meaning to help us continue if it's something that we really do want to do. So think about this in your own life. Have you spent time thinking about your own why for the things that you do? Maybe you have a really deep sense of purpose in the work that you do, and that's what drives you, even when things are difficult or frustrating or hard or even boring at times. Maybe you have a deep sense of why you do some physical therapy exercises so that your back is healthy enough that you can get up and down off the floor to play with your grandkids. Maybe you have this deep sense of why for eating healthy because you don't want to end up with diabetes and other complications like your parents did. Maybe you have a deep sense of why you're going into emotional healing work that can be very painful at times and doing therapy to bring up things that are really uncomfortable, but because you know that on the other side is more joy and wholeness for yourself, but also a better future for your children. And so I hope that you'll reflect on some of these things for yourself. I'd like to invite you, if you have a pen and paper available, to just write down 3 things that you do now that take up most of your time, or maybe 3 things that you find yourself dreading or not enjoying or complaining about most in life. And then spend just a moment thinking about your why for each of those things. Maybe you don't have a deep sense of purpose in the work that you do, but you have a really deep sense of purpose in being able to provide for your family. And that's what keeps you going, even when you don't enjoy the work you're doing as much. Just think about what are those driving reasons and what is that purpose for each of the things that you do in life. And I hope that you'll share this with others. You'll bounce ideas off of each other and help to connect with deeper and deeper levels of why for you. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. I hope it sparks some contemplation and some reflection and thinking about why you do the things that you do that will help get you through those moments that sometimes are difficult and painful, and help you find more joy in some of the more mundane things that we all have to do in life. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoy listening to the podcast, please consider subscribing and giving it a 5-star rating on iTunes. It really does help to get the word out to more people.